You too have been good.
Okay, you're good. Good. Good morning, all, and welcome to the County of Berrien on this beautiful day. It's a pleasure to have you all here. At this time, I'd like to remind us all to turn off any electronic devices. And certainly if you have any materials that you wish to be distributed to the Board of Commissioners, please do so by giving it to our Sergeant of Arms, which is Commissioner Jim Kern. He'll be sure to distribute that to us. Also during public comments, we have two portions of public comment on our agenda today. And at any point during that, if you would be so kind as to identify yourself and also the municipality with which you reside in, that would be wonderful. At this time, we're going to open up our meeting with an invocation led by Commissioner John Hinkleman, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be Commissioner Don Minks. Please join us.
You bow with me. Father God, we come to you today with humble and contrite hearts. Thank you. Thanks for the blessings that you have poured down upon this county and all of the people within the county. Father God, we ask that you come into our hearts. We know that you're here with us. Come into our hearts, come into our minds. Please, Father, help us to fulfill your plan for this county. Help us to be that bridge that can help fulfill your plan for the county, whatever it is. We know it's perfect, and we are here to be your servant and to provide whatever part that we can play in that perfection. So we ask that you be with each and every one of us around this table today and in this room today, and all of the people across the county. And we ask in all this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Ron.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, commissioners. And I'd also like to say thank you to all of the commissioners for being expeditious and running your parent committee meetings and getting us close to being back on time. And I do apologize to the public. We had a pretty lengthy committee of the whole discussion, which made us run into our parent committee meetings a little bit later. So at this time, I would turn to the clerk to call roll.
Bell.
Here.
Curran.
Here.
Freeling.
Present.
Harrison.
Here.
Hinkleman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Meeks.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Ballraff.
Here.
Werfel.
Here.
Yarborough.
Present.
Elliott. Madam Chair, you have 11 present, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. We have a quorum. Looking on the agenda, I'm looking at the approval of the minutes for February 10th of 2022. Did everyone receive those minutes?
I'll make a motion that we accept them. Support.
So it's been moved by Commissioner Majerick, supported by Scott. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Minutes are approved. Madam Clerk?
Yes, you should have received 1 communication from Lydia Dutton, Bayberry Lee Howell P. LLC, St. Joseph, regarding energy programs and funding for townships received on February 11th. That's all.
Did everyone receive that communication? Right. Thank you. I know earlier this morning we did the initial requisition review, but there were a few items that were pending for finance approval. My understanding is those items have been approved by finance, and so at this time, I think Annette just has the requisitions to be signed.
Yes, finance has already signed these, so I'll pass those around. I have just one more second.
Sure.
So, commissioners, you're gonna see the agenda and everything for next week prior to this afternoon. I'm leaving and I won't be back until Wednesday. So you'll get that in advance. Next week's requisition review will come to you from Stephanie. Then I'll be back on Thursday morning for the board meeting, everything like that. But I just want to let you know that's why you're going to get it today before I go. So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, moving on into the agenda, we are at the point of public comments regarding resolutions. If you have anything with which you would like to discuss on the consent agenda for the resolutions that are pending before the board, please do so by going to the podium, state your name and your municipality. Are there any comments? All right, hearing none. I have been asked to pull two of the resolutions. The first one that is being asked to be pulled is P 2202177. It is in regards to the fee structure for the health department. And the second item that we have had requested to be pulled is P 2202385. That is a complement change for the health department regarding adding an emerging threat supervisor position. So with those two items, resolutions removed from the consent agenda, I'm looking for a motion to consider the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It has been properly moved and supported by Commissioner Scott and Commissioner Yarbrough. Is there any discussion with the items on the consent agenda with those two resolutions removed? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Curran,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pinkelman.
Yes.
Majerick.
Yes.
Meeks.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Walrath.
Yes.
Werfel.
Yes.
Yarborough.
Yes.
Bell.
Yes.
Freeling.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 11 yeas.
Thank you. All right, so the first item that was asked to be pulled from the consent agenda is resolution P 220217 regarding the fee structure for the health department. I am going to open it up for a motion to be considered.
Make a motion to approve the fee structure as presented.
Is there support? Support by Commissioner Volrath. It was support or motions by Commissioner Harrison. And now I'll open the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The reason I'm questioning the fee structure is last year on the fee structure for 2021's fee schedule, there was a resolution that came before us asking for a fee to be charged for the administration of giving COVID-19 vaccine shots of $40, and that would be billed to the insurance company. Last year, we denied that because we had received millions of dollars in COVID relief from the federal government through the state government. So if we were already given the money, I didn't think it was, and neither did the board, think it was right that we should charge insurance companies for vaccines that we were getting for free, and we were already given millions of dollars for COVID relief. This year, it's back in as $40 for an admit fee, and I challenge that because going off of last year's fee schedule, the immunization fees for last year for 2021 were $25 for flu vaccine. I'm just picking that one. This year, the fee schedule is still $25. Now, we have to purchase the influenza vaccine, and then we have to have a nurse or someone administer the shot. We are getting COVID vaccine for free, and the nurse or whoever has to administer the shot. So why the difference between $25 for a flu vaccine for a jab versus us charging $40 to the insurance company for a COVID shot? And I think that seems to be the problem that I have with this, because I don't understand it, and I was not given any information, and that's why I had it pulled. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wolfle.
And it's actually 23 for the administration of the flu shot on this schedule. So my question, I've got two actually. It's 23 to administer a flu shot, but it's 40 to administer the COVID shot. So I'm questioning that, since there's been a lot of comparisons actually to they're both a flu shot. And then my second question is there been a price increase across the board? Because of, product costs have certainly gone up with the cost of inflation, and our labor costs have gone up. So have there been an increase in the costs in general on this schedule?
Thank you.
A point of clarification that a lot of these fees are set by the CMS, a division of the federal government, and not by local units like Berrien County. So these are automatically adjusted by the federal government. How they go about that process, I have no idea. But so typically these are things that we're told this is what you can charge, and that's the fees that we charge. You know, as an example, since we last acted on this, Berrien County taxpayers have paid over $45,000 to providers to administer COVID shots to employees. So it is a very customary fee to charge, and one that I think other people are doing. So I can't explain why the federal government would say this is the fee for one and not for another. I don't have that ability to talk about that. But from my perspective, this is, appropriate for the health department to be doing now that they don't have the large volume of people coming for, the vaccines. They are well able to manage this like they do with the other vaccines that they administer. And again, I don't know that anybody can tell you why the federal government makes the decisions that it does. Maybe Commissioner Scott, once he's elected to Congress, can help us understand that.
Madam Chair, I have a rebuttal question to that, something I didn't understand. So what you're saying is that it cost the taxpayers $45,000, and that was for county employees or just constituents in general, that it cost us $45,000 to administer these shots to just people from Berrien County, or is that employees of Berrien County? Because I didn't think the health department was doing that. And since the county is self-insured, and we have our own health insurance, it would go through that. What I'm concerned with is that we're charging private insurance companies from citizens. We're charging their insurance company $40 to give a shot that we're given the vaccine for free from the federal government. And that was my only question, is why we're charging. So the next question then would be, is what would happen then, and who's going to eat the cost of someone who comes in and gets a COVID vaccine and they have no insurance? Then we can't charge anybody $40 for that. And I think that's where I'm not sure of what's going on.
Let me clarify for you. So the $45,000 were fees that our self-funded insurance plan paid to other providers to administer to employees of Berrien County. So that's money out of taxpayers have paid for that as they through our health plan, which is self-funded. For the as we're doing with other vaccines, if you don't have any insurance, then you are not charged. That is provided by the health department at no cost. I mean, that's been the standard with all the other things that they do. So all this is asking for is the ability, the opportunity for the health department to charge individuals who come to them for services and bill their insurance company. That's all we're asking to do. And we're using the fee screen set by the federal government.
Are there any other questions, comments before? You may.
Just what's our expected cost for administering the filing of all those insurance claims?
I don't know that I have that number for you. I mean, there is a cost. They're doing that now for other things that they provide. So it'd be very similar to what they do for other vaccines or in other services.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Harrison,
Yes.
Engelmann,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Meeks,
Yes.
Scott,
No.
Allred,
Yes.
Werfel,
Yes.
Yarger,
Yes.
Hell,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Freeland.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 10
10
yeas,
yeses.
1 nay.
Thank you. Thank you. The next resolution that was asked to be pulled for consideration is P 2202-385. It's a complement change for the Health Department. It is in reference to adding an emerging threat supervisor position. I would be looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion to approve that resolution as presented.
Is there support? Okay. So it's been moved by Commissioner Harrison, supported by Commissioner Bullrath. Is there any discussion? Commissioner
Madam
Scott?
Chair, I have a few things that I've read in here that I need clarification on.
Sure.
In the first whereas, Berrien County Health Department has reviewed the staffing needs related to its expanded support of response activities related to the action level exceedance of lead in the drinking water of Benton Harbor residents and. Okay, this is a grant that the Berrien County Health Department is going to accept for $455,086 from the MDHHS. The first thing is, it appears that we're only discussing, and this resolution only means anything for water in Benton Harbor residents. We do not know if there are any other municipal water systems within Berrien County that could be affected. And I would suggest that we don't just limit this to lead water in Benton Harbor residents, but to other applicable municipalities if needed. Maybe something like that. Okay, that was my first thing. The second thing is, I'm going on my 6th year here, and I think I can speak on this. Every time that we get grant money from the state of Michigan for the health department, what ends up happening is we always put the caveat in there that once the grant money dries up, the positions are eliminated. What always happens is those positions then become full-time positions within the county with full benefit programs. The question that I have is adding an emerging threats supervisor, grade 10 non-union. For the benefit of Julie and Riante, when Nikki Britton was here and she was our health director, at that time, Courtney Davis was our deputy director. At that time, we had the lead water issue come up in Benton Harbor, and we were doing the filters, and we all know about distributing them in the trailer and the trucks and everything. Courtney, as the deputy, handled that particular job. We now have a new deputy director for the health department. My question is, why can't that person do this job of emerging threats? The reason I say that is it was done before. It can be done again by the same person, well, by the same position, different person. And if the emerging threat supervisor is going to be an internal hire from the health department, then whoever that is, that leaves another job opening open at the health department that we have to fill. As of this morning, we are 87 employees down in the county. That would make it 88. We cannot even get one person to fill out an application for the 87. And now we're going to add another person. Where's the overtime money? The overtime money for that person that would move up to the emerging threat supervisor is not included in the 455,086 in that grant money. So what that would mean is that we are going to do this, inflict damage on ourselves to move and create this position for a grant, open up another position that we cannot fill, so somebody has to do the work. So then the county's going to have to pay extra overtime at time and a half that wasn't budgeted for this year's budget coming up. And I just think that that's a waste of county taxpayer money to do that. And I would ask that this resolution be rewritten so that it takes out the emerging threat supervisor from this, and the resolution just deals with the grant for the lead drinking water in Benton Harbor and also other communities if applicable.
Madam Chairperson, may I address
You may.
the number of issues raised by Commissioner Scott? First, this award of $455,086 has already been accepted by the board. Second, with respects to supervision of this activity, right now the Deputy Health Director is actually doing two jobs already. She's got the current deputy job, as well as, if you remember, she was promoted from the nursing supervisor activity. So I think that's right now an issue for us, for the health department. The idea of creating the emerging threats supervisor position is to balance out the workload within the health department. And again, it is funded by the state of Michigan. I think the concern that you've raised, continually is that, grant money goes away, the positions go away. The best estimate now is that the lead issue in Benton Harbor will be one that goes on a number of years. And as the state identifies other communities, that have lead water issues, they will ask our health department to become involved. And so I can see this migrating to other communities as issues are identified. And I think it's a reasonable issue for you to bring up. And I would expect that our staff would be doing much like they're doing with the citizens of Benton Harbor in other communities as need is identified by the state of Michigan.
Madam Chair, could I follow up?
Absolutely.
As it relates to question one about the ability to apply service to other communities, under the grant agreement, the state is paying all of the costs for this service, and it is 100% directed to the Benton Harbor drinking water system.
Okay.
State of Michigan is keenly aware of the fact that the action level exceedance, the ALE, is an issue that will affect other community drinking water systems. I think they know that what they have done in Flint, what they have done in Rockford for the PFAS issues, what they're doing currently in Benton Harbor, that the expectation from local units is that similar services are provided in the event of an action level exceedance. How the state's going to pay for that, I don't know. So question one is, can we provide the ALE supervisor to other communities under this grant agreement? No. Do we anticipate that those requests could be coming? Absolutely. Further, Commissioner Harrison pointed out that the deputy health officer is covering multiple jobs. That's absolutely the truth. The acting health officer is also doing the exact same thing. He's covering epidemiology as well as with the health officer role. The intent here is to take the state's money to try to actually build a department. We would place someone who has been working on this into the supervisory role. We would then take a part-time employee and plug them in at a full-time role. And if the state wants to continue pushing money to the health department to step up the service being provided, then we will bring that forward to the board and ask you to consider it. I think that what is occurring in Benton Harbor likely creates precedence across the state. But for today, the state is willing to pay for this. The city and the state are desirous that we move forward, and we respectfully request that you allow us to plug this position in to take some of the burden off of the staff that are out there.
And I understand that. I just had one other question, Madam Chair, that had to do with this. What is the pay grade for grade 10 non-union? As opposed to a person who is out there as a part-time employee to then be moved into this emerging threats supervisor position. And that's, I'm worried about money. And the reason is I see us growing exponentially out at the health department. And I'm wondering if that is the correct way of moving in the county with bigger government. I'm wondering if we can get more efficiencies out of staff that we have there and not giving a large pay raise because they have a title of emerging threat supervisor. And that's what I don't know, because none of that information had been given to me. So that's why I'm asking these questions now.
Okay, so just to clarify, you're asking how much more is this position going to make than what we already have in place?
Correct.
Give me 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Yep. Annette, have you? Thanks.
Commissioner Volred, did you have a
just wanna
comment
say
or
that,
question?
Having served on PHS committee for several years, we've hired a lot of employees at the health department under these grants.
Mhm.
A lot of them, like this one, you can see they're gonna be there for 2 or 3 years, and even if that job goes away because of funding, you know, these people, it's a good way to get them into the health department. They're finding another job somewhere that is open. We have a lot of openings, and any way that we can to fill them, I think, with good people, I think we should take advantage of. State's paying for it initially, that's fine. If they come into our group and then we're paying them after 2 or 3 years, or whatever, I mean, we're finding good employees that way that stick around. Or they don't like it and they get out right away.
And then we know that the health department, the majority of their funding is state and federal grants.
Correct.
That's how they are able to do what they do.
Commissioner Scott, we are about 30 seconds away from having those numbers.
And Madam Chair, I defer to hold off on this and maybe vote on it later in added resolutions so that we can do presentations, whatever. Or we could vote on it in other business too. Doesn't matter. I just want to question it. So I'm comfortable with it.
Yes, I'll stall for you. I'll ask another question. So the latest one, I think that we added a large number of people was on the COVID task force for contact tracing and quarantines and isolations and all of that. What is that number down to? I think that started at 8 or 9 people.
Yeah, so Guy is standing in the hallway.
Oh,
So how about we pull in the guy who works in the health department every day to answer your question?
yeah, that'd be good. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any other questions while we're pulling Guy in to answer that question? No.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to say I'm sorry for delaying the meeting, but I think it's a question that needs to be answered.
Don't apologize for,
Right, and that's our number one job in the county as county board members, is the fiscal responsibility of the taxpayers' money. And that's what I'm interested in.
You know, Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
may, I would be glad if there are other questions that come up on some of the PHSC resolutions being presented to you. I try and run through those the week prior. Please feel free to call me and I'll do my best to research, those questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. I do appreciate that from PHSC, but when you get your packet very late on the day before, it's sometimes it's not applicable to be calling you at home at such a late hour to ask the questions.
I'd be glad to wait up for those calls.
I know you're waiting on my call.
you may regret that comment. No, I'm teasing. I do see that Guy has entered the room. Hello. And we had a couple of questions that had been posed regarding a resolution for the emerging threat position that is being proposed for the health department.
All right,
So if you might be able to answer a couple of those questions, we'd greatly appreciate it.
I'll do my best.
So I think the easiest question was contact tracers. I think we had a high number of 8 and you believe we're down to 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have 2 people currently doing 2 FTEs. I guess we kind of break them out and we always use that other duties as assigned. Then we have a third one who actually has a master's in public health that I've been using to put together. Her name's Jasmine. She's been actually doing the weekly reports because there's no epidemiologist there right now. So she's hired in as a contact tracer, but we've been flexing her to a lot of other areas. This is something we see is that with the expectation for our COVID response going down, we are looking at our employment structure and where where positions will be available or not. So yeah, there's currently 2 people in that position right now. A third person is hired in that, but she's been helping a lot with schools, getting Excel sheets, and getting data in from MDSS and updating that weekly update.
At least 6 of those 8 have already been rolled down in that grant.
Correct.
Sorry, at least 6 of those 8 have been whittled down from that grant. So it's on the hook.
And then I think we have the fee structure for grade 10, but we're waiting for the difference between the other position. Do you remember what that was?
And that, were you able to get that?
The grade structure for that position?
Yes.
Is that what you're wanting? It's 52, 4, 10, 12 to 70,236.
So
That's the,
52 to 70 is the range. And then I think the final question was roughly what are we paying now for the current position?
that's a new, isn't that?
It's a new
This is
position.
new
Yeah,
position.
so there's not anything to compare it to.
Okay.
It's not a-
Mr. Administrator, I guess my question was, what Commissioner Harrison said, I believe, or what you said, was that we're going to take a part-time employee or an employee that's there to fill this position. And I was just wondering what the difference was, because somehow that's gonna have to be a non-budgeted item to come out of general fund.
No,
Or not, I mean, not this,
No,
but the
it's-
overtime that
No,
that position
the
would
state is
create.
paying the full freight.
But they're not, so the state is going to also pay for the person that moves from the part-time position into the full-time position. And the person that is not here now and we can't hire, we have to pay this person overtime to do this work. The state's paying for that too?
The state is paying 100% of this program. And let me back up. If this position is created, we would go through an interview process. If any existing staff were to apply for it, we may be able to promote them into the role, thereby creating additional positions specifically tied to the AIL program. The state is willing to pay for the position that we're discussing here, as well as the existing positions. The state is going to pay 100% of the cost.
Oh, that's all everybody had to tell me, is that they're paying for the existing positions. I'm just saying, if they're not, then that's gonna be an overtime position that's gonna cost us time and a half. Thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
was easy.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate your questions and I appreciate the discussion. Is
May
there
I
any
call the
further?
question
You
then? I
may.
think we beat this 6 ways.
We certainly may. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Hinkleman,
Yes.
Majeri,
Yes.
Meeks,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Walrath,
Affirmative.
Werfel,
Yes.
Yarborough,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Freeling.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 11 yeas.
Thank you very much. And I do appreciate a good discussion on the agenda items that we have here. Moving on to the next item, we have a presentation from our Veterans Service Department. Lee Lowell is here with some esteemed guests.
Yes,
So
thank you,
Lee, I'm
Madam
going to turn
Chairman.
it over to you.
Thank you. I got so much to say this morning, but I know time is short and I want to make sure I cover everything. I'm joined here today with, well, first of all, it's for the Warren L. Schultz Veterans Conference Room is what we're doing today. And I'm joined here today by his daughter, Patty Kenworthy, I'm sorry, and his granddaughter, Chelsea Nitz. Did I get that right? Okay, sorry. Before I begin though, talking about the Warren Schultz in particular, I want to talk about our Veterans Conference Room. About 2 years ago, we got a grant from the County Veteran Service Fund to do some major upgrades in our office. We spent about $20,000. We got a lot of audiovisual equipment. We've got Skype, Polycom. We've used it for training. We can use it for Board of Veterans Appeals hearings. We're using the South Bend Vet Center, councils veterans in there. And so we put the room to very good use. And just because it's called Veterans Conference Room doesn't mean that anybody here cannot use it. We've had, I know the county clerk and register of deeds have had some training in there and some other departments have come in there for various things. So it's open to everybody by scheduling the room. Usually Wednesdays though, it is busy. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about Warren Schultz, because I found out a lot of interesting things in talking with Patty over the last several days, and we've actually been working on this for quite a while to get this done, but we finally got it done, and I appreciate commissioners doing this. But he's a World War II veteran. He served in the Solomon Islands in 1943. He served in the Guadalcanal campaign, and he was involved in combat operations at Cape Chiquina, I think I pronounced that right. And he was wounded in combat operations against the Japanese, and he spent 6 months in a New Zealand hospital to recover from his combat wounds. And apparently there's a story she told me this morning, because of his impeccable manners, he had lunch with the Queen of New Zealand, which I thought was kind of interesting. Also, only 3 people from his platoon had survived this very intense combat on the Solomon Islands. Well, it was actually the Bougainville campaign, right? Bougainville campaign. Only 3 came home. One of them, shortly after coming home, had committed suicide. And the other 2 that came home, well, first of all, Warren passed away on January 20th of 1994, and 30 days later, Paul Sturbins, the third gentleman, he had died himself. So there's very, very interesting story, and sad, but interesting at the same time. And I guess Paul had saved your dad from stepping on a landmine. He had already had some bad injuries, but that would have obviously, you know, only 2 would have come home. So Paul and him got to be really close friends. The Solomon Islands just to tell you a little bit about it, the Solomon Islands campaign culminated in the often bitter fighting of the Bougainville campaign, which continued until the end of the war. So it was, if you ever want to just Google it, it was a pretty intense battle. Let's see here. All right, so what I'd like to do now is just tell you a little bit about Warren Schultz. That's his military service, but I want to talk to you about him as a service officer. When I first got this job back in May of 2012, it'll be 10 years in May. I would always have veterans come in and tell me about the different service officers that helped them. My predecessor, Dan Stice, oh, Dan really helped me with this, and I really like Dan. In fact, some of them would say, can Dan help me with this claim? I said, well, I'm the new guy, so, I have to help you with it. So, and then I had heard some stories about how Don Olivia had helped. He was Dan Stice's predecessor. But the predecessor to Don Olivia was Warren Schultz, and he had served here for 23 years. And I've just had a lot of veterans, and in fact, we got a plaque that we're going to be putting in the room. It talks, I'll be reading it here shortly. He helped veterans all the way, mostly dependents though, from the Spanish-American War in 1898 through the end of the Cold War in 1991. So it's a wide span, we're talking like almost 100 years span on both sides that he had helped. So he was just a phenomenal person. He had won so many awards. He won the national award. Like I said, I'll be reading this shortly. And like I said, I just thought it was very appropriate to name this room after him. And so Patty had come to my office one day, and I had already known about Warren Schultz because I had already known a lot about him. And she said, hi, I'm Warren Schultz's daughter. And I said, really? I said, well, I've heard a lot about your dad. And then so we kind of struck up this is a couple years back. Well, maybe further. Yeah, time just escapes me. But anyways, it was always interesting, and we would reminisce a little bit and talk. And she gave me this big, thick binder of pictures and awards, and I included that with the package and naming this room. And I just said, I just thought one day we really ought to have it. We got the autograph room here, we got the Kenny Wenzel room down the hall. I thought, why not have the Warren Schultz Veterans Conference Room? So that's kind of how the idea sprung about. So that's why we're here today. We're here to designate that room, and we already have the resolution. Has it already been kind of? You want me to read this first? Okay.
It was approved on our consent agenda, and I was going to ask if you would be willing to.
Thank you, Annette. Okay, like I said, there's so much to cover here. I just want to make sure I cover everything. Okay, so here's an official resolution by the county commissioners. whereas Warren L. Schultz served in the U.S. Marine Corps from September 9, 1942 to January 10, 1945 during World War II, and whereas Mr. Schultz went on to serve for 23 years of uninterrupted service as the Berrien County Veteran Service Officer from October of 1965 to July of 1988, and whereas Berrien County veterans and their families had a great friend in Mr. Schultz, who often was able to assist them to obtain every available benefit, and whereas many veteran organizations have recognized and honored Mr. Schultz, such as receiving the Legion of Merit Award from the Governor's Office, the Citation for Meritorious Service from the National Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation Center of the American Legion, and service awards from the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Disabled American Veterans, the American Legion, and the Marine Corps League. And whereas Berrien County Policy ADM 1260 provides the purpose and procedure of honoring and recognizing distinguished servants of Berrien County to include the naming of Berrien County buildings, facilities, and structures. And whereas the Memorialization Advisory Committee met on January 27, 2022 to review the application and unanimously endorse honoring Warren L. Schultz by naming the conference room located in the Veteran Service Office after him. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Berrien County Board of Commissioners, in honor and in memory of Mr. Warren L. Schultz, authorize naming the conference room located in Veteran Service Office at the Berrien County Administration Center, the Warren L. Schultz Veterans Conference Room. And to be further resolved that the official dedication of the room will take place today, February 17, 2022. And of course, it's signed by all the county commissioners. So that's one thing we want to. Did you want to get?
Tell me when you're ready.
All right, we'll wait for the clap here. Okay, now I've got another thing that I wrote up. This is based on our conversations. This is based on me reviewing that big thick binder that you let me have and borrow, and all the newspaper articles and everything else. I kind of worked this myself. This is it here for everybody to see. Warren L. Schultz Veterans Conference Room, dedicated to the honor and legacy of Warren L. Schultz, who proudly, admirably, and faithfully served veterans and their dependents from October 26, 1965 to July 29, 1988. For nearly 23 years, Mr. Schultz was the director of Berrien County Veteran Services, known affectionately to veterans as their County Veteran Service Officer. Mr. Schultz was a veteran himself who served in the Southern Pacific Theater of Operations during World War II in the U.S. Marine Corps from September 9, 1942 to January 10, 1945. Mr. Schultz was a great friend to veterans and dependents from as far back as the Spanish-American War of 1898 and World War I through Vietnam and the Cold War eras, the latter which officially ended on December 26, 1991. Mr. Schultz was also actively involved in his local American Legion Post 568, which is in Stevensville, where he served as a past post commander. The American Legion also awarded him with the special and prestigious Citation for Meritorious Service Award from their National Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation Center at the Legion State Convention in Grand Rapids, Michigan on July 15, 1978. His honorable service and legacy reflects great credit upon himself, his family, Berrien County, the state of Michigan, and our nation. And then we've got on the bottom here, Warren L. Schultz, Veterans Affairs Administrator, 1965 to 1988. And then we've got our county seal on it. So I think that's about all I have to say. Did you want to say anything, Patty?
I would just.
Sure, you want to come on up here so they can record it and everything? Blocking cameras right now.
Oh, you're okay. Some of you know that I'm a teacher and I can talk for a long time, but I promise I won't. This is probably one of the best days of my life. My dad didn't have a son. He had me. And he raised me to be a Marine. But I wouldn't have changed anything on the way that my dad raised me. He was a loyal, honorable man. He was funny. His biggest dream was to be an entertainer someday. So he did some singing in the local places at times. So we wished he hadn't. But I know that he lived for his veterans. He really did. And he always carried a $100 bill in his wallet for that veteran that might need it. And one of them, some of you might remember, was Clyde Stanley Brown. Does that ring a bell to anybody? Well, he was a vagrant here, a veteran, but a vagrant. And every year he would get himself in trouble by urinating on a church staircase so he could spend the winter in jail. And he was quite a character. So from the most prestigious to the lowest, I guess. In other words, he didn't care. He loved his veterans. So thank you so much for doing this. This means a real big deal to me.
Thank you. Patty and Chelsea, I just want to say it was an honor to be able to read some of the material and get to know your father and your grandfather more. And it's a privilege to be able to recognize him and to have him be memorialized in this way for the work that he has done for our county's veterans. So thank you for bringing that to the attention of Lee, and Lee for you championing it to the board for consideration. And thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
if you'd be kind enough to come down here, we're gonna take a picture of that.
You got it, right?
Yeah.
You guys want to hold this in the middle of that?
I have the resolution.
Oh, it's right here. There you go.
This is the resolution.
That's, yep, that's theirs. That is theirs.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it. Lee, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Good job, Lee.
And you are more than welcome to stay. We have a little bit of other business, but my understanding is you're going to be heading across the hallway to do a little more work. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next item on the agenda, we have another guest here with us from the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber, and that is Arthur Havlicek. And Arthur, go right ahead.
Materials here.
Perfect.
I'll be very brief. Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you, commissioners. Thank you, Madam Chair. Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber, as the voice for business in the region, is here today to respectfully request that this commission once again declare March 2022 Restaurant Month throughout Berrien County. As you'll recall, we appeared before you 1 year ago with a similar request. At that time, businesses, particularly restaurants, were still reeling from a 75-day crippling closure of indoor dining due to some statewide mandates. When they were allowed to reopen, it was at a meager 25% capacity and then limited hours of operation. It wouldn't be until July 1st of last year, actually, that they were able to operate at full capacity when all restrictions were lifted. And during that time, while there was, state and federal aid, a lot of it was insufficient or inaccessible for a lot of area businesses. And as we all know all too well, border counties like Berrien suffered greatly as consumers sought more they sought respite in less restrictive marketplaces like Northern Indiana. This year, while there are no statewide mandates or restrictions related to the coronavirus pandemic, there are a number of challenges that these restaurants are still facing. The increased transmissibility of the Omicron variant has increased consumer hesitancy over recent weeks, and it's also exacerbated existing staffing shortages. Our labor force participation rate nationwide, also in Michigan, also in Berrien County, has been at a historic 40-year low for quite some time now. Nowhere is that more apparent than in the hospitality industry. They've had high quit rates. It's been very difficult to get folks to apply to stay, much like we heard this morning in regards to the positions that the county has open. Additionally, inflation has really hurt the bottom line. We're at a 40-year high inflation rate of 7.5%. Food commodities alone, 7% increase from this time last year. I believe items like meat, fish, poultry, and eggs, staples for every restaurant, up 12% from 1 year ago. Supply chain disruptions, part of that. These are all the challenges that they have to face. That's not only made these items more expensive, it's increased their scarcity as well. So we are, as the chamber, calling on Congress to replenish the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which was one of their funding mechanisms that they announced last year that helped restaurants throughout our area, throughout Michigan, throughout the country, sort of get back on their feet. This was inadequate, as we've seen, and the sheet that was passed around has some numbers to that effect. So I'm just going to really quickly read off some of the statistics that stood out to me. This is from a National Restaurant Association analysis that was conducted within the last month. In Michigan, a whopping 86% of restaurants experienced a decline in customer demand for indoor on-premises dining due to the spread of the Omicron variant. As you would expect, this prompted many restaurants to take a number of operational adjustments into consideration. 61% of restaurants reduced their hours on days that they were open. 44% of restaurants closed on days that they would normally be open. 31% reduced seating capacity, and 10% actually switched back to only carry out and off-premises dining for a period of time. I'm sure we've all ran into that as we've been out looking for food late at night or early in the morning. As a result, 76% of Michigan's operators say business conditions for their restaurant are worse now than they were 3 months ago. Only 4% say business conditions have improved in the last 3 months. This survey also showed that restaurants still have not fully recovered from the cumulative effects of nearly 2 years of pandemic-induced challenges. 59% of operators say the restaurant accumulated additional debt since March of 2020. 47% say they fell behind on expenses since March of 2020. 78% of operators say their restaurant is less profitable now than it was at the beginning of the outbreak in March of 2020. And another 70% say their sales volume in 21 was lower than it was in 2019. If Congress were to replenish that Restaurant Revitalization Fund, it could save another 50,000 at-risk jobs in the restaurant industry alone, in Michigan alone. Even with the inadequacies from the first round, they funded 101,000 applications and turned away 177,000 qualified businesses from being able to receive funds and support. Even with that inadequacy, that fund was able to save 35,000 jobs in Michigan alone. Short of Congress's action in this regard, we're asking the commission to once again declare March Restaurant Month, because last year that resulted in a consumer-driven cash infusion in area businesses that really helped hold them over through this difficult season. We're in a slower season as it stands, facing a number of challenges, and it really staved off shutting their doors for good for many of them. We're hoping that this year it'll help them persevere to our peak hospitality season of summer as well. happy to answer any questions. I actually just spoke longer than I intended to, but that's what you get for putting me up here. Thanks for having me. Questions?
No, I appreciate that very much, Arthur. And I know last year we had passed a similar resolution. And for next week's consideration, we have a resolution sort of recognizing restaurant week. Month.
Yeah. Make it a month. They
Yes,
need it.
we did make it a month, you're right. So we're gonna be considering that again next week. Are there any comments or questions for Arthur at this time?
I guess I wondered when what we saw, the resolution, it's from the board. It wasn't in a committee.
No,
And
ma'am.
is that the one that you will present next week?
Yes, ma'am. So it's a non-binding resolution. It is a statement of support for the chamber's efforts. If there are concerns about the language, just communicate those with me, with Annette. Otherwise, we would bring it forward at next meeting. Thank you.
And right now, what is handed to us is the resolution that we can pass around if we would like to.
I'll start this direction.
And then it will be on next week's agenda.
I didn't like the previous.
If there are changes that are desired, just communicate them to me and we would work to modify it. Otherwise, we would use this language. I'm not wed to the language, but
I'm happy to share my concerns with the resolution. Is that appropriate?
Yeah.
My concerns when I read through this last night was the arbitrariness of this resolution, similar to, sorry, Guy, what we saw in August that came back to really bite us. So there was some confusing language in here. I felt that made it sound like we were committing dollars to the restaurant industry. And given that we're in the midst of committing ARPA dollars, I really don't want that to be confused in the resolution. Given what Arthur just said, I also think that it might be nice to add in here a whereas, that we're gonna join in asking Congress to put more money in that revitalization fund. Having some of those kinds of things in there, I think clears that up. And I think that the fourth whereas says, whereas the Berrien County Board of Commissioners would like to advocate for all of our businesses and industries, I think it should say, because we are advocating for all of our businesses to be successful. And then it can go into specifically, we want the restaurant month to happen. And we support that. I just think there's some clarification things that we can put in there to clean the language up a little bit. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. So is there a desire to maybe look at the language and hold off on signing it until next week? So Julie can kind of have those conversations and we can consider it with the rewrite.
Madam
John.
Chair.
John first.
John,
Just in reading through it in the pre-read that we got before the meeting and then now, Julie, one of the concerns that you would have is that in that fourth whereas where it says the Berrien County Board of Commissioners would like to advocate for the additional support from its citizens. Is
I think
the wording where it says its citizens, so you're advocating for Berrien County to fund. And I don't know if that's your concern, because if that's what the resolution says in its verbiage, then it's a concern because you would want it. Are you asking for the funds to come from Berrien County?
Absolutely not. The best part about this is that this is at no cost to the Berrien County taxpayer to declare March Restaurant Month. What it does is draw attention to the struggles of the industry and drive consumer support, which I'm sure everyone in this room will agree is really the only thing. Government spending for that industry is always going to be inadequate. It's consumer spending that's going to keep them in business. So that's what we're calling for.
So perhaps some wordsmithing then on that would be due, probably.
Yeah.
All right, so we will work through that and have a revised resolution for consideration for next week. But I think that we all see the merits and it's very similar to what we had done last year. And we want to encourage our businesses to continue to be successful within Berrien County because we appreciate them. we appreciate all of the work that the chamber does to continue to advocate for them and for Berrien County to continue to be that wonderful place to live, work, and play, right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
And I promise to eat out a lot.
Good.
Here, here.
I do.
Yes. Thank you, Arthur.
You're welcome.
Yes, Jim.
I have a quick question. What are the chances of that fund being replenished?
They are talking, Congress is considering adding funds back in to the RRF for the, I believe it's the omnibus that's being talked about in early March. It's far from a certainty. There are US representatives on both sides of the aisle that are advocating for it. I think the challenge is we've seen a lot of government spending to help businesses to this point. While this would be helpful, it's again, it's additional. And there's a lot of hesitancy to spend more in that regard, but this is a pretty targeted fund. So there's a lot of bipartisan support for it. It helped move the needle last time. So there's a good chance, but nothing in Washington, DC is ever a certainty, it seems. So that's why we're doing what we can on the ground.
Would the qualifications be the same for the restaurants to qualify? And the reason I ask is because some of the restaurant owners that I talked to that did receive some funds from this fund were not nearly enough, to cover their losses during that time. And so that's why I went, okay, now if they do replenish this fund, what will the criteria be? Will it be similar to when we were in the midst of the pandemic?
That's a great question. So I don't know regarding specific award amounts, but I do know the criteria for the application process, or I should say the awards process is going to be different because that was extremely uneven last time. It went from first come, first serve to not first come, first serve. It wasn't entirely based on need after that. They prioritized certain groups over everybody equally. And there was a lot of consternation over how it rolled out the last time. I imagine some of those kinks are going to be worked out this time with the benefit of hindsight, but I don't know in regards to specific award amounts.
Will it be administered through the chambers again?
The Small Business Association, I believe, is who administered it last time. And if I remember correctly, restaurants work directly with them without the need of an intermediary in order to receive those funds. And I should also point out that the state of Michigan just announced their, jotted it down, Afflicted Business Relief Grant Program, which will be open for applicants on March 1st. That's for restaurants, gyms, entertainment venues. There's about 9 acceptable industry business types that can apply for those grants. I'm fuzzy on the award amounts for those too, but those are additional dollars that are out there. I can send language to include that in the resolution because it's good if we draw the attention of Berrien County's businesses towards that as an option. But really, it's getting over this hump of consumer hesitancy that's out there and getting them back to patronizing our great amenities that we have in this area. That's what's going to save them.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your time today, Arthur, and your inputs and helping bring us up to speed on some of those measures for our small businesses.
My pleasure, Madam Chair. Highlight of my day being here with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next item, we have a presentation. It's a COVID-19 update. I'm sure some of you may have seen in the news that the state of Michigan has done some updating and revisions to their COVID mitigation plans and procedures. And so we have Guy Miller here as well as Eric Hopstock from Berrien RESA to just kind of give us an overview of some of that information as well as Berrien County. Good morning, Guy.
Good morning. Thank you, commissioners, for having me. And thank you, Arthur. That was a really informative presentation. We know the effects of COVID-19 have not just been on population levels, but have hurt businesses and organizations immensely. Hiring being a problem I think everybody's dealing with in the community right now. A little bit of background. The pandemic in 2020 we didn't have a lot of resources as public health to help mitigate the impacts of COVID-19. We didn't have vaccines, we didn't have antivirals, we had people in the hospital showing up with no treatment options. There was a lot of strife, and public health used really physical interventions at that time to create physical distancing and mitigation measures from the person and through society to help be our strategy to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Flatten the curve was something that was often thrown around. Decreasing the amount of people in the hospital was really our intent, and to mitigate and protect the vulnerable populations across the state and across the county was really our goal. Another goal that developed as school became in season and the state had a lot of mitigation measures that blocked things down, closed businesses down, closed schools down. Berrien County Health Department worked very heavily to make sure that in-person school days were counted and essential. I think you guys will find that Berrien County school districts had some of the most in-person days across the state, and that was heavily leveraged on the county's work, the county health department's work with the local ISDs. And that is something we're very proud of, to have had schools going back to in-person instruction quickly. The part I'm trying to get at, and the question that we get so much, that I've seen so much already with this, is why now? What now in the pandemic makes it okay to move from a masking recommendation to a masking optional? And that's where the Berrien County Health Department is moving today. We're moving to masking optional. It's our toolbox. We look at all of the data. Yes, we have downward trends. We have decreasing hospitalizations. We have decreasing COVID-19 rates. We have decreasing percent positivity. But the bigger part, we have increasing testing availability. We have increased hospital capacity now. We can take people. We have oral antiviral therapies. We have immunoglobulin therapies. All of these things have really scaled up to a point where we're comfortable in moving from this position where we are trying to protect the community to now individual responsibility for your own protection. You as the individual now, if you're COVID concerned, you have the option to wear a KN95 mask. Those are widely distributed throughout the county. Berrien County Health Department got about 20,000 in, and we're working with our 7 senior centers across the county to make sure that they have ample supply, really targeting that high-risk population. And high risk is somebody who's going to have a negative consequence, severe reaction, or possibly death because of COVID-19. So senior centers have been a huge target for those masks. We continue to work with local medical providers to make sure they know when and where they can get treatment for their clients. The Berrien County Health Department has been actively providing immunizations, and we've actually seen fewer and fewer people showing up to those. We've got about an 86% saturation rate in COVID-19 vaccines for people who are over the age of 65. That's our vulnerable population. We see that age, obesity, and diabetes are all major contributors, comorbidities, for negative COVID-19 health outcomes. So we really try to focus on those areas, and I think you'll see a stronger focus on those areas as we're moving away from pandemic and we're shifting towards endemic. So with all of those things in consideration, with more tools in our toolbox, we're comfortable making the recommendation that masks should be optional, and that is in general community settings and in K-12 settings. I've had these conversations starting before the state made their mandate. If you guys think that we can get something out that quick, I would be very impressed if we could, but this conversation started with the head of Lakeland, the head of the ISDs, speaking with our medical directors last week. This is where we've been trying to move to. I was quite impressed to see the state come around so quickly with adapting these recommendations. I think if you look at it through a magnifying glass, you will find things that have not quite fallen off yet that are heading in the right direction. This is a shift. We are moving this direction. We are moving towards pandemic to endemic. And this is one of the things that we need the community to understand. And we need you guys to understand too. As people continue to wear masks, they might have high-risk people in their circles, in their inner spheres. The reason for masking is now, it used to be universal source control. Now we're saying with KN95 mask, that's going to provide you a good amount of protection. So if you are concerned about getting COVID-19, get vaccinated, wear a KN95 mask, social distance when you can. Those are all things you can do as the individual. We didn't have all of these tools before, and now we do. So that's kind of what we're heading towards. I hope you guys can see this. I hope there's not a divide between the people that do have high-risk immunocompromised family members, our loved ones, and they choose to wear a mask in public settings. That is completely up to them. And this is exactly where we're going with making masking optional.
Thank you, Guy.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions for this? There is a press release coming out today, so there will be a lot of media coverage, I'm sure, today.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if Eric had anything that he would like to share from the Barry and Risa and the ISD's perspective as well.
I will. First, I'll explain the mask. It's been the policy of Barry and Risa from the beginning that you wear a mask if you can't maintain 6 feet. It was never, you had to wear it in every situation. So our mask optional doesn't start till Monday. So I need to model for my staff what we still expect. Three quick things, and they will be quick. Number one, I've never been in a situation where I could thank you for the opportunity that Barry and Risa was extended to work with Barry and Bus. We have a very unique, it's the only situation I know of in the state of Michigan where the ISD and county was able to work to save an essential function, Barry and Bus. So thank you for that opportunity. We were able to come up with a really creative solution that hopefully could be, so thank you for that opportunity. Number two, we anticipated that the numbers as they were dropping would mean that we needed to change practice as school districts. So we've anticipated masks coming off in some different practices for about 3 weeks now. It's just that some of these announcements preempted us. All the school districts will be mask optional by Monday. The last of the masks will be coming off. We needed time to work with our staff to let them know. I will say, you do not want your educational staff to be nervous. In case you haven't heard, we're in an educational staffing crisis right now. We have more job openings than we have people coming in. That is something we've known for about a half a dozen years. We are there. So when we do changes, we need time to make sure our staff understand. Most of our staff like this idea of masks coming off. There are some that are still nervous, still some families that are nervous. So it takes some time to do some careful communication. But I do know, and I can tell you that all school districts will be mask off by Monday. The last thing is just an announcement. We've been working with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Berrien County Health Department on lead testing. We have 3 sites set up for next week. Tuesday will be at St. Joe administrative offices on Cleveland Avenue. Wednesday will be at our offices, and then Thursday will be at the cafeteria at Benton Harbor High School. It is not just a Benton Harbor problem. We have an older housing stock in Berrien County, and so this issue is prevalent across the county. So we are working to make sure that we can test as many people as we can so that we know what the blood levels are, which is any lead in the blood is not a good thing. So we need to know that. So that's my quick update, and thank you.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Guy. I appreciate that update and constantly evaluating and seeing what is necessary for us to kind of be moving from the pandemic to, at some point, endemic process. So thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Guy or Eric? Yes.
I just want to express my personal appreciation both to Guy and to Eric for their hard work. Both of them are relatively new to their positions, and they really had to be creative and bend over backwards to accommodate all the different ideas that have been thrown at them. So I do appreciate both their diligence and efforts.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Michael.
I know the masks are coming off, which is a good thing, but has the quarantine policy changed in the schools at all? Where if you're even close to another student that came down with COVID, you gotta leave for 5 days or whatever it is now?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Commissioner. The quarantine policies, there's a variety of options, and that is something that is unique to Berrien County with a lot of these. The overall state recommendation for isolation quarantines have not changed. I expect that there will be some movement in the future for changing those, but it's going to take a lot of revision. I don't know if you saw, there's a recent article posted about it and talking through all the options that we have worked with the ISDs for what is appropriate risk mitigation. And I guess another point to remind you is these have continued to be Berrien County recommendations. We have not operated on a mask mandate. We have not operated on an isolation or a quarantine mandate. So they are recommendations for how to do isolation and quarantine. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate the update again, Guy. Moving on in the agenda, we're coming down to the committee reports, and we're going to start with Finance Committee.
Thank you very much. Our Finance Committee met this morning, and I'd like to start off with Commissioner Ezra Scott making a report on the waivers. I'm sorry, on the bid openings.
We had a big day in finance with the bid openings. We opened bids for envelopes, 3 bids, 3 different size envelopes. It's important stuff. First bid, ending in 019, was for 25,000 envelopes. We sent out, I believe, to 4, only 1 responded. And the one who responded to all 3 bids for different sizes and amounts of envelopes. No one else responded at all. So that was $4,145.25. The next bid was for 50,000 envelopes from the same company, Central Michigan Paper, $7,751. And the last bid opening was 100,000 envelopes for $13,631. Again, Central Michigan Paper, and we sent that back to the print department to check for the specifications. And since there was only 1 bid, I guess they could reject the bids and rebid it again, but and that's all we had there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And then we went to our waiver requests. That is when you're used to working with the same company and the parts and everything are interchangeable. And so the waivers that we looked at today and agreed upon one was from Dell, and it was for Dell Tough Books. And what that is, it was some computers. And the budgeted amount was $13,000, and the waiver, we're able to get them for $12,415. Does it say how many there were?
No.
And that, on my paper, I don't know that it's telling me, but it's for the road department. Then the other is for a boat that we bought. The waiver was to Starboard Choice Marine. It was for Garmin GPS, VHF radio, and I don't know what this is. Transducer radar.
Transducer.
It left some letters out.
Yeah.
All of this is for the sheriff's department, and the budgeted amount for that was $7,908, and the waiver amount was $7,908. And then another piece that we bought was from Motorola Solutions, and it was for 800 megahertz police-based radios. The amount of that was $5,337 budgeted, and $5,337 was the waiver amount. All of these pieces were for the new boat that we received. And then we accepted the minutes. We paid our weekly bills, and we paid the road payables. Are there any other things?
6 laptops.
6 laptops is what we got. Thank you. Administration. The next committee.
Thank you.
Somebody had to.
Thank you, Madam Chair, wherever you went.
Administration.
I believe admin is next, so I will be happy to proceed. This morning, we first had our Animal Control Director, Tiffany Peterson, and Commissioner Meeks would like to report out on her visit with us.
Oh, thank you. I want to read some.
Turn your mic on, please. Turn your mic on, please, Don. Thank you.
Mr. Dow.
The animal control got a special tribute from the state of Michigan. And want to kind of read you the Tiffany, it's been very wonderful. And one thing I would say about the animal control, we got one of the largest ones in the state. Very busy, and she tends to set records, and like I say, we're a leader. And we're very fortunate to have her. But I'm gonna read this as a special tribute. Let it be known, it is with great pleasure and deep gratitude that we recognize Barron County Animal Control for their continued work in serving the residents and providing care for the animals of Barron County. The Barron County Animal Control Department has provided excellent service and to the communities of Barron County. Their work with getting pets adopted, spayed, neutered, and providing a shot clinic shows their dedication to serving local animals and maintaining the highest quality of life. Their service to the entire county by providing education to promote safe pet ownership and as well as enforcing state and county laws is greatly appreciated. Throughout the pandemic, Barron County Animal Control Office worked effortlessly without hesitation. Their commitment to the safety of these communities is something that we should all aspire and emulate. Their work is sharing with the first emergency COVID-19 pet food pantry to the state of Michigan and have shown love and dedication the staff has spread not only in Barron County, but across the state. This one, I say went viral. We would also recognize Sarah Orput, I believe it is, who has gone above and beyond through her 12 years of service and her dedication to the department earned her a promotion in emergency response officer. Her incredible effort, care, and diligence is a testament in her willingness to go above and beyond to help her community during these challenging times. And special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated. Barron County Animal Control is taking a token of gratitude in their service both before and during the pandemic. The work they accomplished have been crucial in the community's well-being and will continue to help the residents and animals of Barron County. It's, I think, Garland, Chris, the Lieutenant Governor signed, and Governor Gretchen Whitmore signed this. Now, this has went viral to all the, this is something that the state adopted and recognized Barron County for. And I'm very proud of Tiffany. She had very many accomplishments and she got some really good statistics. Well, Jim, I ain't gonna report all this stuff because it's really a little bit too long, but she got some great recognition. I passed the pamphlet on. I hope everybody looked at it. Okay, but next week, I think we'll be having a presentation, if I'm not right, Brian, on this.
Just emailed Annette.
Okay.
Admin has requested that this be on next week's agenda.
Well, like I say, there's a whole lot of things that Tiffany can be recognized for, and we have a great asset. I mean, when we brought her on staff, she had been continually setting records, and Barron is something the whole state is looking at, especially animal control. I mean, they're probably looking at other things Barron do too. So we seem to be a leader in a lot of things. So in that, did I miss very much, Jim?
No, sir, you covered it pretty well, Don.
Okay,
Very
well,
good.
thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Stack was in to see us because we ran a little long. He was very brief. He's gonna come back and see us next Thursday. But he did want to give us a couple of heads up on some things that are coming, that he is going to contract with an engineering firm for 2 bridge projects that are federal aid projects, because he just doesn't have the staff to get it done. Drain roll obligations, you know, the county, we have an obligation, the road department has an obligation. And he wanted to bring us up to speed on the first of 2. And I think he said it was 130,000 or 230,000. So we want to make sure that we're aware that, you know, we do pay for that. And he's got some property that he wanted to get rid of. So he gave me a property disposal form, but I told him I'm a little rusty on our policy for property disposal. So Brian, I'll get with you after the meeting. It's just, it's not valuable stuff. It's old window air conditioners, that type of thing. So I'll get with you on, I don't remember what the policy is, but whatever it is, we'll follow it. That's all from Kevin. And then we have some resolutions for you the next time we get together. Resolution ending in 2202. I mentioned last week, and it was mentioned that Carrie Smetanka Haney and the courts applied through NACO. This is the authorizing resolution. Remember I said because time sensitive, we had to go ahead and do it, and then the resolution would be coming. This is the resolution that's coming that authorizes it. Resolution ending in 2203. This is also a time sensitive resolution. That's why it's here today. And it is a Michigan First Responder Training and Recruitment Grant. And they had to apply for this grant by Tuesday. So we're kind of putting the cart before the horse again, but this resolution authorizes them to apply for that grant. It's the Sheriff's Department Emergency Management and Homeland Security Division. It's in the amount of $32,692.40, and there is no local match needed. So that resolution will be coming. I'm sorry, this resolution's already been approved. That was approved today. Sorry. This one will be coming at our next meeting. Resolution ending in 2204. Berrien County is part of Region 5 when it comes to Homeland Security. The fiduciary for Region 5 has been Van Buren County. In other words, if there are any grants, any money distributed from the state of Michigan to Region 5, it would go through Van Buren County and then be dispersed to us, St. Joe County, the other counties in Region 5. Van Buren County has decided not to be the fiduciary anymore. So this resolution authorizes us to discontinue our relationship with Van Buren County and now establishes our relationship with St. Joe County, because St. Joe County is now going to be the fiduciary for Region 5. So that's all this resolution does. Just transfers it from Van Buren to St. Joe County. And last week, I reported out to this board on a clearing of a road right away and the request for $2,500, and we denied that request. We received additional information on that particular incident that our people did get on private property. They did not stay exclusively on the right of way. So I was invited to a meeting yesterday where more information was brought forward that we were on the private property. And so that was mentioned and talked about at admin this morning, and we have now approved the $2,500 expenditure because we were on their property. We destroyed their plants. So our corporate counsel was involved in the phone call, and he will make the arrangements. Essentially, we're going to pay the $2,500 and let the homeowner make arrangements to have the plants planted or whatever they need to do, rather than us getting involved in that process. So, you know, by denying it, we thought we did not get onto private property. Once we found out we were on private property, the right thing to do is to take care of those folks. And so that's what the $2,500 is about. And that's what we had agreed to. And that's my report.
Appreciate your report. Next is personnel. Bob?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We met this morning, considered a request from the Public Defender Office promoting an existing employee to the Chief Assistant, I guess, Defender is the correct title. And so we did approve that increase in pay. We also talked very briefly about the request from the Barron County Trails Group for contribution for their study. And then also one other thing to just close the loop on regarding the administrator's evaluation that was considered by the Committee on Committees. I've reviewed it with Mr. Doucette. It's a very good evaluation. And then you should have all received an electronic copy of that. And so next I'll meet with him to talk about goals and objectives for the 2022 year. And we'll get that process cleaned up and then the forms distributed for your input of what the priorities will be. So thank you all for your assistance with that process. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that would conclude my report.
Appreciate it. And I appreciate all your work on the evaluation for our administrator and just doing all of that heavy lifting for us. Much
Remember, we're
appreciated.
going to do our policies and procedures too, so you all need to rest up for that.
Yes. Fellow commissioners, I'm going to forego the commissioners' reports because we have had a fairly long meeting today. So keep your notes to report out for next week on those items, if you'd be so kind. Which leads us on to the next agenda item, which is the administrator's reports. Brian, do you have anything?
Yeah, so 3 things that I'll move fast on. Number 1, there's no committee of the whole next week. No committee of the whole next week. Don't show up at 8:35. Number 2, John Engelhoff has agreed to provide an update to you all on some of the efforts related to broadband within the county. He's got a pretty slick presentation. The tentative plan is to have him here next week. We also have a brownfield public hearing next week. And then lastly is under the ARPA funds, the grant announcement has been pushed out to the local units. We've had local media coverage, lots of emails pushed out to supervisors and city halls. We are going to host a webinar on the 17th of March. And we would base it in this room, just trying to walk the local units through the grant process, what they need to do to fill it out, what they need to do to get their cost estimates prepared, and try to do as much hand-holding as possible to help any of the local units of government that are desirous of trying to get a broadband project done, getting that into the queue so that that their application can be considered. So again, it's March 17th, 12:30 in this room.
May I ask, then,
Yeah.
is broadband the only thing that we're going to put out to the community?
So at this time, the Board of Commissioners have adopted a resolution which authorized the grant process for broadband, noting that you all still wanted to go through the buildings analysis, which you did today.
Okay.
Before finalizing your decisions on how much, if any, would be made available in the form of grants to local units for hardscapes, roads, bridges, parks, et cetera.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Appreciate that update.
Thank you.
We are now at the point of our agenda where we have general public comments. So anything that you wish to share with the Board of Commissioners under 2 minutes, please do so by coming to the podium, stating your name and your municipality for the board.
Under 2 minutes.
Under 2 minutes. Yes.
Go on, girl.
Michael Hoy, City of Benton Harbor, 292 Bellevue. Happy belated Valentine's Day and happy belated Super Bowl. Reason I bring those 2 things up. Benton Harbor area schools took 6 students to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
And they traveled to the Super Bowl, an exquisite trip, and it was carried over onto Berrien County Strong. Take a look at that. It really lifted the spirits of everybody in the city of Benton Harbor. I think maybe even globally as they got to do that. The other one is Happy Valentine's Day. We're doing Lovin' on Pavone this year. Again, this is our 4th year doing Lovin' on Pavone, where we take the property over there on Pavone and we change the dynamics. We just give love. We're giving out food, we're giving out gifts, and we have a lot of great restaurants that are coming to this, and we just give out love. And we're changing the dynamics on Pavone. I don't know if anybody really knows, but when you say Pavone, everybody kind of knows Pavone and Benton Harbor. But from May Street to Empire, there's not been any rashes of gunfights. There's been any rashes of robberies and things of that nature in that block since we've been there occupying that space. And my grandmother's house is right next door. It just happened that Brett Wachowski said, pick a property, Michael. I picked that property and didn't know it was right next to where my mother and my grandparents grew up. So Lovin' on Pavone is going to take place, and follow that on Facebook too, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Are there any other public comments at this time?
Careful, Mike. Luke Andresen, St. Joe. I'm always the party pooper up here, but wish Guy was here. to confirm a couple of these things, but just as a reminder, 0 to 19 age group, no deaths. The COVID-19 was never isolated in a human being, has not gone through the 4 stages of the Koch postulate. So in effect, we cannot say that it's caused anything. Polyamory chain reaction test, which was developed, also known as the PCR, it's developed by Kerry Mullis. You know, I've said this before, I'll say it again, it's a reminder. He won the Nobel Peace Prize for his invention. They misused it. He said it's not to be used as a diagnostic tool. Anybody that knows PCR can amplify biological material. You can find literally anything that you set your sights on. That had it amplified over 47 cycles during the pandemic. This is why we had a pandemic. Not to say that there wasn't something released, there probably was, but keep that in mind. So next time they try and coerce us and force us into stuff and you guys just go along with it, remember what happened. Because people like me, we're like the sun. We're going to come back around again. We're not going away. Okay, and we're going to remember all the people that didn't do their due diligence, didn't do the right thing. All right, so I'll always be here as a reminder.
Thank you, Luke. Are there any other public comments at this time?
I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. Tony Benhart, so this. We've now lost one tech out of the road department who was a very good tech. We lost shop foreman yesterday. We've got a engineer that's trying to be a manager that should be back in engineering instead of having to pay these private firms to do the engineering work. You have the same person that misled this administration committee last week on this $2,500. That same person has screwed up 3 engineering projects since his tenure here. You got a girl, lady, whatever, Lindsay Delp, that was acting manager before Jason was here. You went through 2 managers since you took over the road department. You've got a road department right now that is at least got a superintendent that's got quite a bit of knowledge and has worked his way up. Is very respected. And I hate to say it, I'm hearing that there's a little bad blood being shed between the manager and him. If he walks, you're going to be in a world of hurt. I would suggest that you put your manager back in engineering where he belongs and let Lindsay Delk run the road department like she did before. And also bring the wage up for your manager. You're not going to get a manager.
2 minutes, sir.
You're not going to get the manager at the wage you're offering them at. Thank you, Tony, for your comments. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board? All right, hearing no other public comments. Moving on to other business. I don't know that there is any other business. Does anyone have anything? I do want to only address one thing real briefly. In the community of Berrien Springs, we lost an icon of that community. His name was Terry. He was the cheerleader of that community. He was 61 years old and he passed on Valentine's Day. And so I want to put his name out there because he means a lot to Berrien Springs. So outside of that, announcements and reminders. The county facilities will be closed on Monday, February 21st, 2022 in observation of President's Day. There is no committee of the whole meeting next Thursday, February 24th. So if you come here at 8:35, you'll be sitting alone. You show up at 9:15. Unless you need a cup of coffee, Jim, and then come a little bit earlier. There is also a BC BET meeting that is meeting at 12:30, just in the hallway if anybody wishes to